Welcome to Feminine Power Time. Turn off the chatter and tune in to what matters. This is the place we reimagine the way we and the world work from the inside out when the feminine leads. The place where we marry together and blend together personal leadership, well-being, and wisdom to embrace our power, our wisdom, and our influence to co-create a better and brighter world for ourselves, those we touch, and for the generations to come, through our voices, our choices, and our presence within the ecosystems we live in, we lead in, we work in, and we love in. This is Christina Rilo, your host, and you just heard the opening to our 10th season, our 10th year, which we are so excited to open up and begin with you all here at Feminine Power Time. I love the number 10 for so many reasons, including that it's considered a full cycle in many, many different traditions. And it's also the ending and completion of something, but also the starting of something. So if you think of the number 10 and you reverse it as to be the number 1, we're both completing and starting at the same time. And I feel like that's also very perfect for where we're at in our world right now. And so today what we're going to do is I am going to give you a little context for what season 10 is all about and where we're going with it and kind of what to expect, so you can kind of settle into the season. And whether you are just joining us now or you are joining us in some future time, as many of you know, we are creating what I like to call a wisdom library here. So the episodes that we create, which I always say are more than a podcast. The podcast is just the format that we come together to share the wisdom that we can take and apply practically to our lives. The things that we can do on the inside to illuminate and educate so that we can liberate and elevate. And we do these series and these focuses that really bring in wisdom through the lens of the feminine. It's always been what we've done here at Feminine Power Time. In a big way, because the feminine has for so long been poo-pooed, woo-wooed, shoo-shooed, dismissed, dismantled, disrupted. And I'm not just talking about women here, you all. So one thing we have to just get clear for those of you that might be new here, and it's always good for those of us that are been around for a while, the feminine isn't about men or women. It's not about gender. When we speak to the feminine, it's about an energy. It's an energy that exists within each one of us. We have the masculine and the feminine. Sometimes it's called the anima and the animus. Sometimes it's called the yin and the yang. Sometimes you can look at it elementally and it will be water and fire, or wind and earth. Or in some traditions, it's talked about as the eagle and the condor. In other traditions, it's talked about the head and the heart. So we live in a dualistic world. But what happens in a dualistic world that isn't focused on a higher good for the whole, isn't focused on a common desire to create harmony and beauty and sustainability, is those two little things go like this, blah, 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 blah. They're like a seesaw or a tug of war. And in our current culture, which depends on how far back you want to go, we'll just go back, say, 5,000 years or 2,000 years, there's been a strong focus on what would be called the masculine energy. And so you could call that the material world, the dominating world, the logical world, just kind of like a one-sided view of intelligence for many, many, many reasons that we've talked about before, that you can look at the Genuine Power series and go deeper into. But for today, what I want to do is just get us all settled into what's going to happen in this series, and specifically where we're going to dive into. And then we're going to also then dive into the first of what I call the feminine leadership archetypes. And we'll talk more about that. And so that's going to be a big part of our structure for the year. So I want you to go ahead and just kind of settle yourselves in. And this might be a little longer than normal. We'll see kind of how it goes. You know that we work in Feminine Power Time is also about working in the flow. So there's a focus. I have a roadmap. We'll see how long each part takes. But I didn't want to just jump into the first feminine leadership archetype. I wanted to provide some context, because the context gives us a container. And when we have a container, if you kind of think of it like a circle, it holds us in it. And so we're going to start using the creatrix, which is the first feminine leadership archetype, and there are 8 that we'll work with over the course of the season. We have to create that container, because otherwise it's just like idea, action, this, that. It's somewhat what we feel like when we think of the way social media or communications, or just like a lot of how this world is currently working, it's way over-indexed on the intellect and the wind component. That's the element of that goes with wind and the mind. And so the mind is like rat-a-tat-tat, this, that. And in the feminine, we actually create the container first. It's kind of like the difference of like, you go and you get, the big soup pot, and you make sure you got a really good soup pot, and then you go out and you get the ingredients, and then in just sort of like just throwing them in randomly, you do one layer, then you would do another layer, and then you do another layer, and it's all in the pot. It's just like how we grow things, right? It's like we tend the soil, we turn the soil, and we plant things, and some things take, some things don't. Some things, they take time because it's cyclical. And so we're going to create a container around us for this season, with that at the center of the container is reimagining the way we and the world work when the feminine leads. Just take that in for a moment. Reimagining the way we and the world work when the feminine leads. And so my invitation to every one of you listening right now, and I would hope, and I'm going to ask that every one of you invite one other person to join you on this journey. You can invite more, but to share this episode and invite them into this season 10, so you have somebody in your life you can conversate with around these things. And more than one is even better. But one is a great place to start, so that you can all take what we're going to explore together over the course of this season, which I'm not sure how long it will run. It will run likely till June solstice of next year. That's how also we create space and sustainability, is we say, okay, this is the container. It's going to run through June of next year. And then these are the places we're focused at. This is the why of it. And then we have the focus, we have the path, but then we also allow ourselves to be fluid to what shows up. And so just kind of taking that into your heart for a moment and your being of like, what does Christine mean by reimagining the way we in the world work when the feminine leads, which is at the center. There's actually 2 center points. So I just want to point that out first. It's a stake. So whenever I create an experience for an organization or a team, or I do a retreat, or I write a book, I always know what's at the center of that creation, because it helps me stay focused on what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And so the reason why we're having this conversation is, I believe, and it's not just me that believes this goes back through, if you trace back evolutionary thinkers and philosophers and people who have dared to do things differently in all realms, from business to education to government, that were able to break through consciousness and create new realities. They were here to reimagine. They were here to help us as a culture, as a people, individually, collectively evolve. And at this time, it's ripe for us to understand this other side of the animus, the yang, the masculine is the feminine. Because if you don't, we don't get taught these things in school. We don't have classes on intuition or active surrender or conscious collaboration, or using our capacity for receiving and compassion, and all of these things that are inherently feminine. The creatrix, who we're going to talk about today, our inherent capacity to birth new worlds and realities. And so my job has been to go into the world these last 20 plus years and go deep into the esoteric and bring it back and bridge it together to give us constructs and practices of how do you put this wisdom, this energy, this power into your life in a very practical way. So instead of feeling like either a victim, like I can't do anything about what's happening in this world, I'm powerless, who am I? I'm just one person. Or pulling the covers over your head and sticking your head into the sand like an ostrich and just not looking at all and just trying to stay alive. Or like going out there so big and so bold that you burn yourself out. None of those are going to help us at this time. We have to understand that this is a collective shift in the way that I see it and the way that these conscious evolutionary thinkers have seen it. And this is part of my lineage of standing and listening and learning from these elders, some who are still alive in their 70s and 80s and 90s, and some who are already on the other side of like keeping that thread of wisdom alive. People who have known that there's a different way for thousands of years, and even in our modern society for hundreds of years. So we're going to pick up that thread in our right hand, like the hand that goes out into the world, and say, we are part of these people who have reimagined. And some of them, yes, they're famous, they're well known, but so many you all are like you and me. Like, it's like people maybe some people know their name. Some people call them the unsung heroes. I don't really love that word, not so much into the whole hero archetype, but more about the people who showed up, they played their part, they embraced their power to make an impact through their own elevation, the elevation of their family system, their relationships, how they showed up in community, and the systems that they could influence. And through that, and this is the second stake, then we know that that's how we make the shift. So the second stake of this whole season is embracing your power, our power together, our wisdom and our influence of our personal leadership to co-create a better, brighter, and I just recently added the word brighter because I'm like, I like better, it helps, but like feels like it's limited. It's stuck in duality reality. We need something to like birth, like the creatrix. And brighter means radiance. It means to bring the light. So if you're here, like I know that you're a person to bring the light, to bring your light, not to serve it out like it's Halloween candy, but to be that light. And so we embrace that power, that wisdom, and that influence, and that radiance. And we do that, and we bring that, first we do that for ourselves, one-on-one. We have to elevate our own internal frequency. And then we can do it with those people that we touch and we're in relationship with, one-on-one, and one-on small groups. So think your family system, your team system, the people in spheres that you're connected to. And then that impacts the ecosystems of the systems we work in and the societies and the culture at large. So it's like an inside-out job. So when I talk about reimagining the way we in the world work from the inside out, that's the inside-out piece. Actually, I have an image, and it'll be up on my website soon, that shows this ecosystem model. And just to kind of visualize it for yourself, if you think of like concentric, more like ovals than circles. And like you're in the center like an egg, the creatrix, interestingly, her image, she's often shown holding an egg. And you're the egg like in the center, right? So the me is at the center. And there's a wisdom teaching that says two things. One, you were born with the dream seeds inside of you, that you are here to bring into fruition in the world. And it's like the mustard seed, right? Or the acorn has everything, the DNA, all the things already in it to go from a seed to a tree. You're the same. And part of our role, your individual role, is if you elevate in your own frequency, your own capacity to give and receive love, and continue to it's not about being better than, but to move from what we're called oftentimes like the denser frequencies, the frequencies that are deeply rooted on this planet and human consciousness in fear and in domination and in control and blame and shame and all of that stuff, that the way that you've been able to grow and rise into more like the heart level and the wholeness level. That is like a frequency. It's like going from, had a dream last night that I was telling a friend how when I was in high school, I used to wear Slayer t-shirts, which is like a death metal band to you all. And people were so confused by me. They were asking me like what group I fit in. I'm like, I didn't really fit into any group because I was in all the really smart classes, and I kind of like, I would be in the yearbook club, and so I'd befriend like the whatchamacallit people, the in crowd, because whatever. And then I liked heavy metal, and I hung out with the stoners because they kind of accepted people for who they were. So everyone just kind of thought I was a stoner, but they were very confused because one day I show up looking like Molly Ringwald, or like a preppy person. The next time I have like holes in my jeans and combat boots on. But like that part of me that grew up in the South Side of Chicago, who then kind of matured, is like I was still operating like we all do a lot from the wounding. And as I've just continued on evolving. It isn't still that some of those shadow frequencies don't get a hold of me, because they do, because that's part of what we're here to do, right? We're here to elevate and refine our way back to the truth of our wholeness and our own love. So I just want to acknowledge that for each one of you, that the work quote unquote on the inside that you are doing to come back home to yourself and elevate out of those denser frequencies that have been gifts to us, so that we can be more and more coming from that strength of the masculine and the feminine together in wholeness. That's where it all starts. And then you have those dream seeds inside of you that you're meant to do your part. And then from there we go into the we, and that smaller we is the one-on-one relationships we have. It's the relationships with the small groups that we have, our family systems, our teams, for those of you that work inside of systems and lead teams. And we have a lot of influence over those particular ecosystems. And then from there, it goes into like our function or our community. And from there, it goes into the overall system or organization or town maybe that we live in, or the bigger family system. And then from out there, it goes into culture. So that's what we're up to here. We're really working with those ecosystems that you can influence. And that is so the feminine. She's not like, see me, I need to be seen. She's like, I am here now, and I am enough, and I have enough for myself and for the world, but not because I'm running around self-sacrificing, trying to save and fix and prove and chase, but I'm like a tree, this beautiful, beautiful tree, and come and sit by me and receive, and know that your presence, dear one, is enough. And so that is at the center of our seed for this year, or for this season, is that through your voice, our voices, our choices, and our presence within the ecosystems we live, lead, love within, we show up. Context. And if you were to see the container, I have a picture here that I drew out of this. It looks like a seed, like what the container is that we're in for season 10. If you actually put your hands together and put your top fingers together in the kind of the base of your palms, it'll make the shape of like an almond. It's also called a mandala. So go ahead and do this just so you can actually see this. This is like really happening on the physical level. And that mandala is, it's the center of a symbol. If you can think of, it's called the Vescus Pisces. So it's two whole circles. So if you take your hands together in front of you and make two whole circles, and you can think of this as like the masculine and the feminine, or the yin and the yang, or anything that is in our dualistic society. And then you bring them together, not so they're on top of each other, but just so that they're slightly overlapping, kind of like a Venn diagram. And the part that overlaps is what's called the mandala. And that looks like an eye. If you put it horizontally, it looks like an eye. And if you make it vertical, it's interesting because it looks like the opening of a female body. Sometimes in different traditions, it's called the yoni, Y-O-N-I. And again, this isn't about being female or male, but what that signifies and why we're starting with the creatrix as the first of the feminine leadership archetypes is that we do all have this capacity to birth new realities for ourselves, for those relationships that we are in one-on-one, and for the smaller systems that we can influence in our teams, our families, and our communities. Every single one of us on this planet have that ability. And that ability to birth new realities, to co-create new realities, and we're already starting to open up here to the archetype, but I'll just say this and then just get us grounded and we're kind of where we're going to the next phase, is that, of course, you all, the current structures that make up our society, our culture, the way that we think about business and what it has to be and how it's run on this profit model, which is just a human construct. Humans have made every non-natural system on the planet, which means humans, of which you and I are part of, have the ability to create different systems. This is what the evolutionary thinkers and system thinkers and pioneers are sometimes called the evolutionary revolutionaries. This is what they have been talking about for many, many, many forevers. And me too, and us too. And so, of course, there's the dominating, controlling culture and people who have power and domination don't want to change this. Or the people who feel disempowered can't see it. And then there's just the structure inside that is unwanting to change. I don't understand why, as individuals and relationships and systems, we resist change when we know we need it. But it's almost like we don't believe it until we can see it. Just think of the whole work at home thing, you all. Is like, that's a great example. When my last corporate job, I completed as an employee in 2005 or 6. So that's the other part for those of you that don't know. This is where my MBA business self comes in and brings in this mystical knowledge to create new realities and pathways for us. But part of the reason I left is I asked if I could work from home on the days where I was like doing deep writing. I did leadership communications and helped executives with their talking points and speeches. And also when I'm creative, I need to kind of be in my own space. And they're like, no, you can't do that. So then I closed my door I had an office with a door so that I could think. And then I got feedback that I was antisocial. I'm like, oh my God, are you like kidding me? So I have ever since then I've worked at home or gone to places to do my work, and I've been working online and teaching online since 2009, and so like I've always known this was possible. And when I was a team leader, even though the company had a rule, I allowed my team to be very flexible. If they were in the office, out of the office, like we had parameters around all of it. But I wasn't there to say you have to be in your seat at 8:30 a.m. and check that box. And so, fast forward to the pandemic, and it forces it to happen, and we see all of the benefits of it, and it's wonderful on lots of different levels. But there's also there's this backlash, like everyone must come in the office. Everyone must come in the office versus let's find what actually is the best for our company, our team, our organization that creates a really good synergy. Because there's something about both of these, the feminine and the masculine energies, that if you could be with both of them instead of pendulum back and forth, that rises you into a third level of reality that allows you to co-create a different reality. But when you're only stuck in these two things, you can never get out of it because they're always going back and forth, which is like, for example, in America, you have this Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal, like all of those labels that just keep bouncing back and forth with each other versus being able to say, what's at the center of what we want to create. And actually, I like to say it's like a bird has 2 wings, a head, and a tail. So you need more than 2 wings. You actually need 4 points to create a whole system, and you need 3 to elevate out of duality reality. So that was a lot of sacred geometry, systemic thinking, but I wanted to give that all to you to get us started. And here's how this is going to roll for us is, one is we're going to explore these 8 feminine leadership archetypes. We're also going to explore kind of 4 parts. So there's power, there's presence, which is the feminine leadership archetypes. There's power, there's personal sustainability, and there's purpose. And you could even draw them out in a diagram. Like if you drew a diamond, at the bottom would be personal sustainability in the south. In the north would be purpose. In the west would be presence, and in the east would be power. These are 4 of the 6 realms of elevated leadership, which is a model that I use when doing leadership work with people that makes sure that we're creating an elevated level of where we're leading from. So we're not just creating the old stuff. So I'm giving you 4 of them that we're going to work with in this 10th season so that you can understand that you want to be focusing on all of those. If I only focused on power with you without presence, it wouldn't integrate within your own genuine expression, and you'd just be emulating external types of things. If we only focus on purpose without personal sustainability, you'll burn yourself out and continue to create, whether it's your own life, your family system, your team system, your organizations, you'll just keep creating systems and realities that burn people and planet out. So we have to make the shift inside of us first. All right, let's just take a breath. We have officially, ding, 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 begun the 10th season of Feminine Wisdom, or from Feminine Power Time, which I am also calling the season of Fierce Grace. And Fierce Grace is when people ask me what embodied power looks like. I often say, I respond to as Fierce Grace. And I'll just give the definition, and then we'll take a breath and beat, and we'll move on from there. So fierce grace is the integrated power and presence that lives within a human's heart. When we can access this full range of power and presence, we embody an essence that can shift a room just by our presence. We are a force for change and elevation because we are deeply rooted in ourselves, our essence, our innate wisdom, and our truth, focused on how we can serve the whole, and we are part of the whole. So with that, I officially open up our season 10, and I'll also just add this one last piece in for you to consider how Feminine Power Time can support you in these months and years ahead. One of the things that Feminine Power Time has always been is what we like to call an oasis. And there's an interesting thing because Paulo Coelho in his book, The Alchemist, talks about, there's a part in there where the person who's the main character stops at this oasis in the desert, and they end up staying there for a couple of years because he says there's all these wars that are going on around, and it's really important to have the oasis to come to. The oasis is also water. It's water in the desert. And the desert, metaphorically, is often a reflection of what is sometimes called in different traditions the wasteland, which is a world that has been really extracted in everything from extractive capitalism to just people feeling, like they're disempowered. It's kind of a lot of what, if you turn on the news, is what we see, right? War and all of the things that go on. But there is still in the desert, there are these oases, and there are the evolutionary thinkers and believers of creating a better world, and people willing to continue to stand up and show up and create. And we are all part of that. And that is the feminine. We have to have water as humans. It's what nourishes us. It's what keeps us juicy, like versus dried out prunes. So even in intense times of these transformations we're in, we need that creative life force. And so this is how I would invite you to think about and be with Feminine Power Time this season. Feminine Power Time is an oasis for illumination, liberation, and elevation. And it is a field of other co-creators. So you can imagine yourself, every time you're coming, you're plugging into a field of other co-creators all around the world. And one of the invitations I have for you is to come here, come to Feminine Power Time, to turn off the chatter and tune into what matters. Come here to recenter into what is real and aligned for yourself. Come here to gain wisdom, perspective, practices, insights, courage, and clarity. And my intention is that you leave feeling centered and inspired, accompanied, and really rooted in your part, your presence, your purpose, your beingness, and that deep, deep advocacy for your own personal sustainability. I believe with all my heart that the equation of do less, receive more, achieve a greater impact is part of what we can give to the generations to come. And for me, knowing that there are others out there, knowing that I'm not alone, knowing that there are other what are sometimes called cultural creatives are out there, a lot of us, and we're just not, it's not the common thing we're seeing on the outpicturing in the world. The outpicturing the world wants us to keep seeing all the things that are horrible versus the things that are beautiful that are actually happening. So I invite you to come here, to be here as we go into this 10th season. Again, please do invite someone to be and do the season with you whenever you're listening this to you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to complete us here, just and leave this as its own episode to really just be the opening into the portal of this 10th season from this place of reimagining the way we in the world work from the inside out when the feminine leads. Each of us embracing our power, wisdom, and influence of our personal leadership to co-create a better, brighter world for ourselves and those we touch in generations to come through our voices, choices, and presence within the ecosystems we live, love, and lead in. And just invite you to take a moment with yourself and breathe into your body, breathe into your mind, breathe into your heart, and breathe into your spirit. And repeating those words of fierce grace of I am here now. I am here now. I am here now. And as we go through whatever this next cycle brings us, may we remember that we have the power within us to create peace within ourselves. And as Thich Nhat Hanh taught so beautifully in his experience of the refugees when they were leaving in the 70s from where they lived, he said if they were getting to the boats, that there would obviously was chaos and fear and anxiety, but if one person could remain calm, the rest of the boat would calm. And if not, all was lost. So from that to the Hopi elders who have told us, there is a great river coming, you cannot stop it, do not hold on to the shore. Let go and let yourself float to the middle. Look around for others like you. And in that meaning, like you, and that they are here and we are here, we're going forward. This could be a good time. So may we all be on our rafts, our surfboards in the middle of the water. Love the water, and know that you are not alone, and that I will be here, and the other co-creators will be here as we go forward from here. So sending you all off with much love, and tune in to our first session, which will be on the feminine leadership archetype of the creatrix. And to make sure that we stay connected and you know what's happening to get connected to this field of co-creators, go to my website, christinearilo.com, and make sure you sign up to receive the wisdom letters that I send out via email. That'll be a great place and way for us to stay connected as well as through the podcast. ChristinaRilo.com. All right, loves. See you soon.